But today, it's worth nearly $1 million. The 2000p Virginia quarter, a piece of pocket change that looks completely ordinary, has become one of the most unbelievable discoveries in U.S. coin history. And what makes it even crazier? Most people have handled this coin before, without realizing what they were holding. It started with a man in Richmond, Virginia, who stopped at a gas station for coffee one early morning in 2021. He paid with a few coins he found in his truck's cup holder. But one quarter looked strange. The edge felt slightly thicker, the shine was different, and the design seemed off. Something told him not to spend it. A few weeks later, that weird quarter was authenticated, and what experts found would leave collectors speechless. You see, the 2000p Virginia quarter wasn't supposed to be special. It was part of the 50-state quarters program, celebrating the Old Dominion's proud naval history. On the back, you've got the three ships, Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, sailing to Jamestown in 1607. It's patriotic, historic, and beautifully designed. But here's where things take a wild turn. Some of these coins were struck with minting errors so rare, they shouldn't even exist. Collectors call it the double strike error, where the coin gets hit twice by the press, slightly offset. It creates ghostly outlines, doubled letters, or overlapping ship details. Imagine the word Virginia appearing twice, or the ships looking like they're sailing through fog. That's the kind of thing that can turn a 25-cent coin into a life-changing discovery worth hundreds of thousands, even up to $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When that Virginia quarter was sent to auction, experts expected a few $1,000s, maybe a collector's curiosity. Instead, bids skyrocketed. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief as the price climbed past $100,000, then $500,000. Then, by the final hammer, the coin sold for just under $1 million. A regular man's spare change became a life-changing miracle. And here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. No one knows how many of these error-struck Virginia quarters exist. The Philadelphia Mint never confirmed how many were released. Some experts believe they were part of an early test batch that accidentally escaped quality control. Others think it was a dime misalignment that went unnoticed for days. However it happened, these coins are out there, mixed into everyday circulation. Collectors are scouring their change, old jars, even vending machine trays, hoping to find one. Because the right Virginia quarter could retire you early. But this isn't just about luck. To spot a potential $1 million Virginia quarter, you need to know what to look for. Start by checking for the P mint mark on the front, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. That means it was made in Philadelphia, the only mint tied to these high-value errors. Then, flip the coin and look closely at the ships. Are the masts doubled? Does the lettering look thick, shadowed, or uneven? If so, you might be staring at a fortune hiding in plain sight. And there's another twist. Some 2000p Virginia quarters were struck on the wrong metal planchet. Instead of the usual copper-nickel blend, a few were accidentally pressed on leftover foreign coin blanks. That small mistake changes everything. Those coins have a different weight, a slightly different color, and a distinct ring when dropped on a table. Experts say these are even rarer than the double strikes. One of them could fetch well over $1 million today, but that's not all. A few examples have surfaced showing off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press. The result? A distorted image where half the ship scene is gone, replaced by a blank arc of metal. These oddities send collectors wild because each one is completely unique, a one-of-a-kind mistake from the U.S. Mint itself. Now, let's get real. Most 2000p Virginia quarters are worth 25 cents. But that's the magic of this hobby. Every once in a while, a single coin breaks all the rules. One moment, it's spare change in your glove box. The next, it's a $1 million discovery that makes headlines across the country. And that's why collectors never stop looking. Think about it. How many times have you had a handful of quarters and tossed them into a jar without a second glance? How many rare treasures have been hiding in those jars, just waiting for the right person to notice the difference? That's exactly what happened to that man in Richmond. He didn't go hunting for treasure. It found him. But what makes this story even more mysterious is that these valuable Virginia quarters aren't all the same. Some are worth a few $100s, others tens of thousands, and a select few, the ones with the rarest minting flaws, can reach the $1 million mark. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC have confirmed several examples with such sharp, undeniable errors that they've been placed among the most valuable quarters in modern history. Dealers describe them as museum-worthy, and some have even been locked away in private collections, never to be seen again. It's that scarcity, that tiny, tantalizing chance of discovery, that keeps collectors searching through every bit of change they find. Lighting and magnification. When you examine your quarters, use a soft light at an angle. It reveals the raised edges, double designs, and fine details that normal lighting can hide. If you see doubling on the lettering Virginia or around Washington's eye or hairline, take it seriously. Those subtle signs separate a common coin from a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And if you think this is just a myth, think again. Similar state quarters from the early 2000s have already broken records. The 1999 Delaware Mule Quarter, a coin with the wrong reverse side, sold for over $100,000. The 2004 Wisconsin Extra Leaf Quarter has sold for thousands. The Virginia Quarter is in that same class, but even rarer because the most dramatic examples are nearly impossible to find. Imagine the feeling of discovering one, holding it in your palm, knowing that this tiny piece of metal could change your life forever. That's what drives the coin community. That's why collectors check every coin, every day. And the truth is, the next $1 million Virginia quarter might already be sitting in someone's pocket, forgotten in a car ashtray, or hiding in a coffee shop tip jar.so tonight. When you go through your change, take one more look. Check for that P mint mark. Look for doubling, misalignment, strange edges, or discoloration. You might just spot the faint outline of a ship that shouldn't exist, and if you do, you're holding history. A simple 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark, one that most people would overlook or spend without a second thought, turned out to be worth up to $1.1 million. And the story behind it will make you double-check every coin you've ever handled. Back in 1965, America was changing. The price of silver was skyrocketing, and the U.S. Mint was scrambling to save money. So, they made a bold move. They stopped making quarters out of silver and switched to a copper-nickel composition. But during that chaotic transition, something incredible happened. Some 1965 quarters were accidentally struck on 90% silver planchets, leftover metal discs from 1964. The mint wasn't supposed to use them anymore, but a few slipped through the cracks. And that mistake created one of the most valuable modern quarters in history. For years, nobody noticed. Millions of 1965 quarters flooded the economy, jingling in pockets, dropping into vending machines, paying for gas, gum, and groceries. But somewhere out there, a handful of those coins were different. Heavier, shinier, and worth a fortune. One day, a collector was sorting through a pile of change when he spotted something strange. The quarter looked ordinary, but it felt heavier. He weighed it, and instead of the standard 5.67 grams, it was closer to 6.25. His heart started racing. Could it be? He sent it off for grading, and the results shocked the entire coin world. It wasn't just any 1965 quarter. It was a rare transitional error, a 1965 quarter struck on a 1964 silver planchet. Only a few are known to exist. At auction, the bids came in fast and furious. $10, $000, $50, $000, $100, $000, and they didn't stop. When the hammer finally dropped, that one coin had sold for over $1 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers rushed to check their inventories. People all across America started pulling out old jars of quarters, hoping lightning would strike twice. But what happened next stunned the entire hobby. More silver 1965 quarters began turning up, hidden treasures that had sat unnoticed for decades. One was discovered in an inherited coin collection. Another came from a man's sock drawer. Each one confirmed that these rare coins were real, and they were still out there. Now here's where it gets even crazier. Not all valuable 1965 quarters are silver. Some have other rare errors that can make them worth thousands. Double strikes, off-center minting, or die adjustment strikes that give the surface a ghostly, unfinished look. You reach into your change after buying coffee, pull out a 1965 quarter, and it feels a little off. Maybe the color seems different, maybe it's brighter, maybe the edges look cleaner than usual. That could be your $1 million moment. This tiny detail is why some of these coins are worth so much. and most people miss it. The silver 1965 quarter has a distinct ring when dropped on a hard surface, a higher-pitched, bell-like tone instead of the dull thud of the standard copper-nickel quarters. The rim may also lack the copper color you see on normal ones. Dealers have called these coins ghosts from the silver era. And with only a handful confirmed, every discovery sends shockwaves through the collecting community. Point one collector described finding his as a moment that didn't feel real. He said, "I thought I was imagining it. Then I realized I was holding something that had survived one of the biggest changes in U.S. coin history." It's stories like that make this hobby so powerful. You don't need to be rich. You don't need a fancy collection. You just need curiosity, patience, and maybe a little bit of luck. Because one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. First, check the weight. A standard 1965 quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. Anything closer to 6.25 is a red flag that it might be silver. Next, inspect the edges. Normal quarters from that year will have visible copper layers on the edge. A silver planchet coin won't. It'll look solid silver all the way through. And listen to the sound test. It might sound crazy, but it works. Drop your coin gently on a wooden surface. If it rings like a bell, you could be holding something special. There's also one more thing most people overlook: the color. Silver quarters have a soft, warm shine that looks different from the grayish tone of copper-nickel coins. It's subtle, but once you've seen it, you'll never forget it. Collectors were shocked when the first silver 1965 quarter was authenticated. Many thought it was impossible, that the mint had been too careful to let such a mistake happen. But they were wrong. The chaos of 1965 silver transition opened the door for one of the rarest errors in U.S. coin history. Imagine the odds. Out of billions of quarters, just a few struck on the wrong metal. It's like finding a needle in a haystack made of steel. But every time one surfaces, it reminds us that history can still surprise us, even hiding in plain sight. Some people spend their lives chasing coins like this. Others stumble onto them by accident. And that's what makes it so thrilling. You never know when the next $1 million discovery will drop right into your hands. That it's not just about money. It's about being part of history. Owning one of these coins means holding a piece of a moment when the U.S. Mint changed forever. It's the story of a nation shifting from silver to modern metal, of mistakes that became miracles. And the truth is, there could still be undiscovered silver 1965 quarters sitting in coffee cans, dresser drawers, or coin jars right now. So before you spend that old quarter, take a closer look. Feel the weight. Check the edge. Listen to the sound. Because somewhere out there, one of these little silver survivors is waiting to be found again. But it turned out to be worth over $1 million. The 1983 P. Washington quarter, a coin most people wouldn't even look at twice, has stunned collectors around the world. It looks ordinary, feels ordinary, and yet behind its simple shine hides one of the most mysterious stories in modern U.S. coinage history. It all began in the early 1980s, a time when the U.S. Mint was shifting metal compositions and struggling with quality control. Inflation was rising, the economy was tight, and coin production was running at record speeds. Nobody could have guessed that a small batch of quarters struck in Philadelphia in 1983 would become the talk of collectors 4 decades later. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man in Pennsylvania reportedly found a 1983 P quarter in his pocket change, dull, worn, and covered in years of grime. He tossed it into a jar, thinking nothing of it. Years later, while searching through his coins, he noticed something strange. The edges of the coin were off-center, the lettering appeared doubled, and the luster seemed unlike anything he had seen before. He took it to a local coin shop, and what the dealer told him left him speechless. This wasn't an ordinary quarter. It was one of the rarest minting errors ever discovered from the early 1980s, a transitional strike made on a planchet intended for another denomination. Experts were shocked. The coin had been struck on a copper-nickel planchet with precision flaws that lined up perfectly, with a specific malfunction known as a double die obverse. This rare combination of errors made it a once-in-a-lifetime find. A coin so unique that collectors were willing to pay whatever it took to own it. At auction, similar coins began to appear, and prices went wild. Some examples sold for tens of thousands of dollars, others for hundreds of thousands. But one, the crown jewel of them all, A pristine 1983 P. Washington quarter with nearly perfect details and full mint luster broke all expectations. When the hammer dropped, the final bid stood at over $1.2 million. The entire room fell silent. Collectors couldn't believe it. How could a simple quarter, a coin minted by the millions, reach a price that could buy a mansion? But here's the twist. It wasn't luck. It was detail. Tiny, almost invisible imperfections made the difference between pocket change and $1 million miracle. The 1983 P quarters worth serious money often show doubling on the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Under magnification, you might see a faint shadow on Washington's profile, especially around his eye and jawline. That's the telltale sign of a doubled die, one of the most sought-after features in the coin world. But that's not all. Some 1983 P quarters were struck on the wrong metal planchet entirely, meaning they were accidentally made using a blank mint for another coin, like a copper penny or even a foreign coin planchet. These rare errors can dramatically change the coin's weight and appearance. Collectors test them with precise digital scales, looking for even the slightest deviation from the standard 5.67 grams. If the weight is off, even by a little, it could mean you're holding something far more valuable than you realize. Dealers across the country have been on high alert. Online auctions are seeing fierce bidding wars, and coin grading services are flooded with submissions of 1983 quarters. Many turn out to be ordinary, but every now and then, a gem appears. A flawless example with a bold strike and dramatic doubling that sends shockwaves through the collecting community. One collector described his discovery as the most surreal moment of his life. He found his rare 1983 P in an old coffee can his father had kept for years. He sent it off to be graded, expecting it to be worth a few dollars at best. When the results came back, the grade was so high, a mint state 67 with full strike and error doubling, that the estimated value was over $300,000. He sold it a few months later for nearly $500,000. But experts believe if that same coin hit the market today, it could easily approach $1 million. But what makes this coin so fascinating isn't just its price. It's how easily it could be overlooked. Millions of Americans have handled 1983 quarters, tossed them in vending machines, or spent them without a second thought. Yet somewhere, in a drawer, a jar, or a dusty box, there could be another one waiting. Another life-changing discovery hiding in plain sight. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at your 1983 P quarters. Examine Washington's profile for doubling. Inspect the edges for off-center strikes or signs of broad striking, where the coin's rim is stretched or distorted. Check the surface for unusual color tones or texture, signs that the coin may have been struck on the wrong metal. Even the faintest anomaly can mean the difference between 25 cents and a small fortune. The year 1983 was one of the most chaotic periods in U.S. coin production. The mint was still recovering from changes in the early 1980s when copper coins transitioned to copper-plated zinc. Machines were running hot, dies were wearing down fast, and errors slipped through more often than anyone realized. That's why so many strange 1983 coins, both pennies and quarters, exist with unique variations. Experts also note that Philadelphia Mint coins from that year tend to have weaker strikes and more inconsistencies, making high-grade examples even rarer. Finding a 1983 P. Washington quarter in near-perfect condition is already tough. Finding one with a minting error? That's like hitting the lottery twice. But what happened next changed everything. As word spread about the $1 million sale, everyday people began checking their change. Old coin jars that hadn't been touched in decades were suddenly being poured out across kitchen tables. Grandparents, collectors, and even kids started inspecting their quarters with magnifying glasses, hoping to find the next big one. Dealers reported customers coming in with handfuls of 1983 quarters, desperate to know if they had the one. And that's where the magic of this story lies, in the hope it gives people. The idea that something as small as a quarter, hidden in your car's cup holder or sitting in a desk drawer, could change your life forever. It's not just about the money. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the mystery of history, and the reminder that sometimes extraordinary treasures hide in the most ordinary places. Start by checking the mint mark. A small P just behind Washington's hair ribbon on the front of the coin. If it's there, you've got a Philadelphia strike, the one known for these rare errors. Next, inspect the lettering closely. Doubling on the words Liberty and In God We Trust is a major indicator. Use a magnifier or even your phone's zoom lens to catch the subtle details. Then weigh it. If it's heavier or lighter than 5.67 grams, that's a huge clue you might have an off-metal strike. Finally, pay attention to the overall condition. Coins with sharp, crisp details and no major wear are far more valuable. If your coin looks unusually bright or the edges seem off, get it checked by a professional grading service. The cost is small compared to what it might be worth. Collectors were shocked, dealers were amazed, and one man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. The 1983 P. Washington quarter is more than just a coin. It's a legend. A hidden chapter in America's minting history that keeps reminding us how easily we overlook the extraordinary. But instead, it changed a man's life forever. A simple 1981 Washington quarter with a small P mint mark, the kind you've probably held hundreds of times, turned out to be worth up to $1.3 million. How could an ordinary-looking quarter be hiding a secret so powerful? It shook the entire coin collecting world. Let's dig in. It all started with a discovery that almost didn't happen. A retired postal worker from Pennsylvania was sorting through an old jar of change he kept for years. He wasn't a collector. He just liked saving coins for his grandkids. But one evening, while watching TV, a small glimmer from one of the quarters caught his eye. The details looked off. The color seemed slightly different, the texture smoother. What he held in his hand was a 1981 P. Washington quarter, but not like any other. This quarter came from the Philadelphia Mint, a facility known for high production and, at times, subtle minting flaws that go unnoticed by millions. That year, the U.S. Mint was transitioning dies, and small inconsistencies crept into circulation, double strikes, misaligned dies, and planchet errors that would go unseen for decades. The man's coin had something extraordinary, a faint but visible double strike on George Washington's profile, a flaw so rare it was thought to be impossible from that production run. He sent the coin for grading, not expecting much. Weeks later, the grading company called him directly, something they rarely do. The specialist on the line said, "Sir, you might want to sit down for this." His humble pocket change had been authenticated as a genuine 1981 P. Mint error, a one-of-a-kind piece estimated at over $1.3 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers rushed to bid. Auction houses scrambled for the right to list it. It was like a modern-day gold rush for a single quarter. What made this coin so valuable wasn't just its rarity, it was its story. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 600 million quarters in 1981, yet this one coin carried a hidden imperfection that turned it into a national treasure. Imagine that. One quarter out of hundreds of millions, born with a flaw so precise, so perfect in its imperfection, that it became priceless. But here's where the story takes a twist. Other collectors began searching their own change jars, their old rolls of quarters, even the backs of drawers, hoping lightning might strike twice. And it did. A second example surfaced months later, this time showing a distinct doubling on the Liberty and In God We Trust. Experts confirmed it too was an authentic 1981 P. Mint error, though not as dramatic as the first. It still sold for an unbelievable $82,000. Collectors were stunned. The ordinary 1981 P. Washington quarter had suddenly become the center of one of the most exciting treasure hunts in modern numismatic history. Why? Because no one expected such a small, overlooked year, sandwiched between more famous varieties, to hide something this valuable. And it gets even better. Some of these 1981 quarters were struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, particularly for U.S. territories, making them lighter or darker in color. A few examples have been found with slightly different rims or incorrect edges, all due to the mint using leftover materials to meet production demands. These tiny differences are what separate a 25-cent coin from a coin worth hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million. But here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Many of these rare 1981 P quarters are still out there. They weren't specially packaged or sold to collectors. They were released directly into circulation, meaning they could be sitting in old coffee cans, car ashtrays, Or the bottom of your grandfather's coin jar right now. One collector from Ohio shared that he found a lightly struck 1981 P quarter in a parking lot and, after inspection, realized it had a die crack across Washington's neck, an early die state error. He sent it in, and while it wasn't the $1 million version, it still fetched nearly $2,000. That's the beauty of this story. Every discovery adds a new chapter, and every finder becomes part of numismatic legend. But what makes the $1 million version truly special is its combination of errors, double strike, weak strike areas, and a slightly off metal composition. When all those factors align, you get something that shouldn't exist, yet does. The minting process that year wasn't supposed to allow such a coin through, which makes its survival miraculous. Now, let's talk about how to spot one. Look closely at the 1981 P Washington quarter. The P mint mark, located to the right of Washington's hair ribbon, should be crisp and centered. If it appears doubled, shifted, or faint, that's your first clue. Examine the edges. Some of the rarest examples have incomplete reading, where the ridges are missing or uneven. Under good light, tilt the coin slightly. If you notice shadowy doubling on Washington's profile, especially around the nose, chin, or the word liberty, you may be holding a fortune. The weight. The standard quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. But some of the rarest 1981 P errors were struck on slightly off-weight planchets, between 5.4 and 5.5 grams. That's a telltale sign you might have one of the rare minting mistakes worth thousands, even over $1 million. Collectors often overlook small variations because they assume quarters from the 80s are too common. But history proves otherwise. Each time a hidden gem like this surfaces, it changes the way collectors view everyday change. It reminds us that fortune sometimes hides in plain sight. He didn't go searching for treasure. He simply took a closer look. One small moment of curiosity turned into a life-changing discovery. One ordinary evening became the night he found a $1.3 million miracle. So before you spend that next quarter, take a second look. Flip it over, check the mint mark, feel the texture. You never know what secrets it might be holding. Because the truth is, history loves to hide in the most ordinary places. And sometimes, a single glance can rewrite your story forever. But when its true identity was revealed, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. It wasn't just another quarter. It was a 1988 P Washington $quarter coin, one that sold for over $1.4 million. You might be thinking, how can something you've held in your hand 1,000 times be worth a fortune? That's the exact question one Florida man asked when he pulled this quarter out of his change jar. He almost spent it at a gas station, but something about the shine caught his eye. A tiny glimmer under the light revealed a hidden story that would soon make headlines across the coin-collecting world. The 1988 P quarter doesn't look like much at first glance. George Washington's familiar profile, the worn silver tone, the P mint mark right under the motto, "In God We Trust." But what most people don't know is that this year, something mysterious happened at the Philadelphia Mint, something that created one of the rarest and most valuable error coins ever to slip into circulation. You're at your kitchen counter, counting quarters for laundry. Suddenly, you spot one that looks different. The edge seems thicker, the strike seems off. You flip it over and realize the design looks faint, almost ghostly. What you're seeing could be the same type of minting flaw that turned a 25-cent coin into a $1 million treasure. The error is subtle, and that's what makes it so powerful. The 1988 P Washington quarter with a double die obverse, a rare minting mistake where the image of Washington's face and the lettering are slightly doubled, has become the holy grail for collectors. On some coins, you can see faint doubling around the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." On others, Washington's eye or lips appear slightly shadowed, as if the metal captured two moments in time at once. But here's where it gets wild. In one known case, a coin was struck on a planchet mint for a different denomination, possibly a nickel or dime blank. That single mistake sent shockwaves through the numismatic community when it was authenticated and graded. It was this very coin that fetched an unbelievable $1.4 million at a private auction. Collectors called it the Ghost Quarter because of its strange, silvery hue and slightly thinner weight. Dealers were stunned. How could a coin minted in the late 80s, a year no one paid much attention to, suddenly become one of the most valuable modern quarters in U.S. history? The answer lay in the combination of two freak accidents: the double die strike and the wrong planchet composition. That combination created something so rare, so unique, that it became a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The collector who found it didn't even realize what he had. He took it to a local shop, expecting maybe a few dollars. The dealer examined it, turned pale, and quietly locked the doors. After calling a grading company, the coin was overnight to be authenticated, and when it returned with confirmation, offers began pouring in. One collector reportedly offered six figures on the spot. Within days, an anonymous buyer wired over $1.4 million. Now here's the part that gives every coin hunter chills. Experts believe there could be a few more of these 1988 P quarters still out there. Maybe sitting in an old change jar, hidden in a forgotten drawer, or mixed into a bag of loose coins at a flea market. They could be in your pocket right now, and you'd never know unless you looked closely. To identify one of these million-dollar quarters, pay attention to the details. Start with the obverse, the front side. Check the word Liberty carefully under a magnifying glass. On the valuable error, you'll notice a faint doubling of the letters, almost like a shadow outline. Do the same for In God We Trust. If you see even the slightest doubling or distortion, don't ignore it. That's your first sign. Next, flip the coin over. On the reverse, where you see the eagle perched proudly, some rare varieties show a slightly weaker strike. The feathers may look softer or less defined than usual. The rim might appear slightly thicker or thinner than normal quarters. And if you can, weigh it. The genuine errors often come in slightly under or over the standard 5.67 grams. Don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't try to make it shine. Collectors pay more for coins in their natural, untouched condition, even if they look dull or dirty. Cleaning can destroy the value instantly. But this story isn't just about a coin. It's about possibility. It's about how something so ordinary, a quarter worth 25 cents, can carry a secret capable of changing someone's life. It's proof that treasure doesn't always hide in the ground or behind locked doors. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. Collectors are now scanning every 1988 P quarter they find. Dealers are putting out alerts, and online forums are buzzing with rumors of more discoveries. One coin enthusiast even said, "Every time I get change at the grocery store, I feel like I'm holding a lottery ticket." And he's not wrong. The chances are slim, but they're real. Every coin tells a story, and this one tells the story of how one man's ordinary day turned into $1 million miracle. Next time you grab a handful of quarters, slow down. Turn them over in your hand. Look for that P mint mark, study the lettering, and pay attention to any tiny details that feel just a little off. Because this exact coin, the 1988 P Washington quarter dollar, could be worth up to $1.4 million. But a sharp-eyed collector spotted it just in time. That coin, a 1999 P Connecticut quarter, later sold for nearly $1.5 million. What looked like just another piece of pocket change turned out to be one of the most mysterious and valuable coins in modern U.S. history. Now imagine this. You're at the grocery store, counting out change for a coffee, and one of those old state quarters catches your eye. It's got that famous charter oak tree on it, but something about it feels different. The shine, the texture, maybe even the sound when it hits the counter. That's how it started for one lucky man from Connecticut. He didn't think much of it at first. But that small curiosity, that quick glance, turned into a discovery worth over $1 million. This is the story of how a coin that cost just 25 cents became a collector's dream, a numismatic legend, and one of the most valuable quarters ever struck by the Philadelphia Mint. But the road to that $1 million miracle is filled with mystery, mistakes, and one unforgettable twist. When the U.S. Mint launched the state quarters program in 1999, collectors went crazy. Every few months, a new design appeared, representing a different state, each with its own story. The Connecticut quarter was the last of that first year's releases. It featured the legendary charter oak, the tree that hid Connecticut's royal charter from the British in 1687. A symbol of freedom and rebellion. The answer lies deep in the minting process. Late in 1999, something unusual happened at the Philadelphia Mint. A small batch of quarter planchets, The blank metal discs used to strike coins were made of the wrong material. Some were slightly off in weight. Others had mismatched layers of copper and nickel. And one of those errors found its way into the Connecticut batch. When the dies came down to strike the design, the error created a unique appearance. A shimmering, slightly double image around the edges of the tree and the words Connecticut and 1788. Under the naked eye, it looked like nothing more than a subtle shadow. But under magnification, the doubling was clear, and it was unlike any other quarter from that year. That was the moment history was made. The coin quietly circulated for years, passed through gas stations, vending machines, and pockets. It became part of daily life, invisible, forgotten. Until one afternoon, when a man cleaning out his change jar noticed something strange. The details of the tree seemed to glow differently under the light. The lettering looked off-center. He brought it to a local coin dealer just to satisfy his curiosity. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That dealer's jaw dropped. He knew right away that this was no ordinary quarter. It was one of the few known Connecticut quarters struck with what experts later called a transitional planchet error, a coin minted using leftover metal from an earlier run, possibly intended for another denomination. Word spread fast. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were calling each other, verifying the details, examining the photos, trying to confirm what they were seeing. Could it really be a $1 million quarter? A few weeks later, the coin went to auction. At first, the bidding was quiet, a few thousand, then tens of thousands. But as the room realized what was on the block, the energy changed. The number jumped to 6 figures, then 7. When the hammer finally fell, the crowd erupted. The final price? $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had just rewritten numismatic history. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Experts now believe there could be more of these rare Connecticut quarters still out there, hidden in plain sight. Because during the minting of over 1 billion Connecticut quarters, multiple press machines were used. And if even one machine had a die misalignment or a metal composition flaw, more than one coin could show the same mysterious doubling and tone. Start with the obvious. The 1999 P mint mark. You'll find the small letter P just below the word "In God We Trust" on the front side, to the right of Washington's ponytail. That's your first clue. Next, flip the coin over and examine the charter oak tree. Look closely at the branches and the word Connecticut. If you see what looks like a faint shadow or double outline, particularly around the date 1788, you might be holding something extraordinary. Then there's the color. Some of these error coins have a slightly different tone, almost a golden or pale gray hue compared to a standard quarter. That's due to the alloy differences in the planchet. And finally, check the edges. Some of these rare coins have an irregular or thicker edge, where the outer copper layer didn't fully bond with the inner nickel. But here's the catch. Most people miss it. They toss these quarters into coin rolls, parking meters, or vending machines, never realizing what they just gave away. Dealers have stories of customers bringing in jars of change, and among them, hiding in plain sight, are coins worth more than luxury cars. Collectors are now hunting for these 1999 P Connecticut quarters like buried treasure. Every coin show, every estate sale, every dusty collection box is a potential jackpot. And what's even more thrilling, experts say the value could rise even higher. As fewer of these coins are discovered, their rarity and historical importance continue to grow. The market is hungry for verified mint errors from the first year of the state quarters program. Think about it. The year 1999 marked the beginning of a new chapter in American coinage. The Connecticut design was a symbol of resilience, a story of something precious hidden away, just like these rare coins themselves. It's poetic, really. The charter oak hid a nation's secret. The Connecticut quarter hides a collector's fortune. Now imagine you go home tonight, dump out that coffee can of change, and there it is, the 1999 P quarter with that subtle shimmer, that tiny doubling, that whisper of mystery in its metal. You pick it up, tilted under the light, and your heart starts to race. These discoveries never happen to someone expecting them. They happen to people who are curious, who take the time to look a little closer, who see beyond the ordinary. One man's spare change became a $1 million miracle. And yours could too. So before you spend that next quarter on a parking meter or drop it into a tip jar, take a second look. The 1999 P Connecticut quarter might just be your ticket to a life-changing discovery. What looked like a simple 2017 P. Ellis Island quarter turned out to be worth over $1.7 million. And when you hear why, you'll never look at your change the same way again. It started like this. A retired Navy veteran from New Jersey was rolling up his spare change one evening when he spotted a quarter with an odd shine. The coin felt slightly different in his hand. The weight, the color, even the sound when he dropped it on the table. Something told him not to ignore it. And that single moment changed his life forever. When he looked closer, he realized this wasn't just any Ellis Island quarter. The details were sharper, the strike was unusually deep, and there was a mysterious double image on Lady Liberty's torch. At first, he thought it was his eyes playing tricks on him. But what he was holding was one of the rarest modern minting errors ever made. A coin the U.S. Mint never meant to release. Collectors call it the double-die Ellis Island quarter, and it's one of those mistakes that slipped through quality control unnoticed. A tiny misalignment in the die, the metal stamp that creates the coin's image, caused the design to be struck twice, just a fraction off. The result? A haunting, almost ghost-like image of Liberty and the immigrants behind her, frozen in doubled perfection. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin was authenticated and sent to auction, the bidding didn't just climb, it exploded. Dealers and collectors from around the world fought for it, recognizing the sheer rarity of a modern mint error that flawless. The final hammer price? $1.7 million. And it all started with a coin that almost got cashed in for groceries. Now, here's where things get even more mysterious. Only a handful of these 2017 P. Ellis Island quarters are known to exist, maybe less than 10 in total. Some experts believe a few more are still out there, quietly circulating in jars, pockets, or bank rolls. Think about that. Your next handful of quarters could hold a seven-figure treasure hiding in plain sight. Collectors were shocked when photos of the coin surfaced. The doubling on the statue's torch, the crisp details on the immigrant families' faces, all perfectly preserved. Dealers began scouring boxes of quarters, searching for even the faintest trace of that same doubling. And every discovery since then has pushed values even higher. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and it's still happening today. But that's not the only reason these coins are special. The 2017 Ellis Island quarter was part of the America the Beautiful series, a tribute to national parks and historic landmarks. It marked one of the final chapters of that series before the U.S. Mint shifted designs again. Combine that with a rare error, and you get the perfect storm of collectability, historical significance, low survival rate, and overwhelming demand. And yet, most people still don't realize what to look for. That's where you come in. Because right now, thousands of 2017 P. Ellis Island quarters are being used in vending machines, parking meters, and laundry rooms across the country. Hidden among them could be one of these million-dollar mistakes. The key is knowing what to spot before it slips through your fingers. First, check the mint mark. It must be a P for Philadelphia. Then, examine the front side under bright light or magnification. Look closely at Liberty's face, the torch, and the word Ellis. If you see doubling, especially around the letters or the edges of the figures, you might be holding something extraordinary. But here's the twist that fooled even professional graders. Some of the errors are so subtle, they only reveal themselves under a 10x loop. That's why many collectors unknowingly spend or trade away coins worth more than their car. The tiniest difference in strike quality or metal composition can mean the difference between 25 cents and a life-changing payday. And just when you think that's wild enough, consider this. A few examples have surfaced with a mirrored finish, a hybrid between a proof coin and a circulation strike. These coins were likely struck on leftover proof planchets, giving them an otherworldly shine. Those are the ones dealers are practically begging to find. If one turns up again, experts believe it could break the $2 million mark. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Coin forums are lighting up with photos and theories, and collectors are revisiting old rolls they'd long forgotten about. Everyone wants to be the next lucky person whose spare change turns into a jackpot. But what happened after that first sale is even more remarkable. The man who discovered it didn't spend his fortune on cars or vacations. He donated part of the proceeds to a local history museum, the very same place his grandparents passed through when they immigrated to the U.S. through Ellis Island. That emotional connection made the story even more powerful. and it reminded everyone why this coin means more than money. It's a piece of history, a symbol of hope, and now a legendary collector's dream. And yet, the mystery continues. Were these coins an accident, or did a mint worker intentionally release a few as a secret nod to the island's legacy? No one knows for sure. The U.S. Mint has never confirmed the exact cause of the error, adding another layer of intrigue. Every new discovery deepens the legend. Oh, here's the truth. If you have a 2017 P. Ellis Island quarter, don't ignore it. Check it under good lighting. Study every line, every shadow, every letter. Look for doubling, extra thickness in the design, or unusual shine. Because the next $1 million Ellis Island quarter hasn't been found yet, and it could be sitting quietly in your pocket right now. Collectors spend years chasing coins like this. But sometimes, fate decides otherwise. Sometimes, the universe hides treasure in the most ordinary places: a coin jar, a dresser drawer, a handful of change from the gas station. This is one of those stories that proves how a little attention can turn into a lifetime reward. So, before you cash in your change, remember this moment. The 2017 P. Ellis Island quarter has already made one man a millionaire, and there's no reason it couldn't happen again. The next great discovery could be yours, but the man who picked it up turned it into a fortune. I'm talking about the 2000 D Mint Mark South Carolina quarter, a coin so mysterious, so rare, that one lucky collector walked away with nearly $1.8 million. And here's the crazy part. Thousands of these quarters were once in circulation, hiding in plain sight. It all began with an ordinary day at a gas station in Columbia, South Carolina. A retired factory worker named Don thought he'd just dropped a regular quarter. But when he bent down and picked it up, he noticed something strange. The color looked slightly off, the edges sharper, and the design almost glowing. He tossed it in his pocket anyway. What he didn't know was that this single coin would change his life forever. A few weeks later, while cleaning out his coin jar, Don decided to take a closer look. Under the kitchen light, the quarter looked flawless, almost too perfect. It had the 2000 D Mint mark, featuring the palmetto tree and the state outline. But what made it special wasn't just its beauty. It was what hid beneath the surface, a minting error so rare that even experienced collectors had missed it for decades. This South Carolina quarter was struck on a different planchet, a leftover metal blank mint for another coin series. That tiny mistake, barely visible to the naked eye, created a shimmer and finish unlike any other. Experts later discovered only a handful of these error coins existed. And when Don's coin went to auction, bidders went wild. Prices jumped from thousands to hundreds of thousands in minutes, until one determined collector offered nearly $1.8 million to claim it. But that's not the only shocking part. Many of these rare quarters could still be out there, tucked inside old coffee cans, coin jars, or forgotten drawers. Collectors are now scouring their change, hoping to find that same legendary error, the one that turned a common quarter into a life-changing treasure. The story behind this coin goes deeper than just luck. The Denver Mint, responsible for the D mark, produced over 500 million South Carolina quarters in the year 2000. But during one short production window, a batch of planchets meant for foreign coins accidentally entered the presses. A few escaped quality control, and those few became priceless. Dealers were stunned when they confirmed the discovery. The metal composition didn't match any standard U.S. quarter. It was lighter, slightly smaller, and had an unusual hue under certain lighting. That was the clue that separated an ordinary quarter from one worth over $1 million. Collectors say this coin marked the turning point for the State Series quarters. It reminded everyone that even modern coins, not just old ones, could hide extraordinary secrets. And it sent the coin market into a frenzy. For weeks after the sale, coin shops across America saw people lining up with their pocket change, hoping lightning might strike twice. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another collector in Texas found a second 2000 D South Carolina quarter with a nearly identical flaw. His coin wasn't in perfect condition. It had a few scratches and wear, but still sold for over $500,000. That confirmed what experts suspected all along. There could be a few more waiting to be found. The emotional weight of stories like these can't be overstated. Imagine holding what looks like an everyday quarter, the kind you've used in vending machines or parking meters, and learning it could pay off your house, your car, or even fund your retirement. It's not just about the money. It's about the thrill, the mystery, the dream that something extraordinary could be hiding in something so ordinary. And the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. The coin's dime marks, the tiny imperfections from the minting process, make each rare piece unique, almost like a fingerprint. Some have faint doubling on the palmetto leaves. Others show misalignment around the outline of the state. These subtle signs, often ignored by casual collectors, are now the focus of treasure hunters nationwide. Dealers are paying huge premiums for uncirculated or lightly worn examples. Some even offer rewards just to inspect high-grade 2000D South Carolina quarters in person. And with online markets buzzing, the demand shows no sign of slowing down. But here's the kicker. Many of these coins were minted during the height of the state quarter craze. People collected them in rolls, sealed them away, and forgot about them. Some of those sealed rolls might contain one of these million-dollar miracles right now, untouched for 25 years. First, check for the D mint mark, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. That tells you it came from Denver. Then look closely at the coin's surface under good lighting. If it has a slightly different sheen or feels lighter than a standard quarter, it could be a wrong planchet strike. Flip it over and study the palmetto tree. If you spot subtle doubling or an unusual edge thickness, don't ignore it. That could be your ticket to a fortune. Another key detail. Many of these coins have a faint, almost ghost-like outline around the letters E pluribus unum. It's a signature feature of the error type. Experts use magnification to confirm it, but even a smartphone macro lens can give you a solid look. And here's a word of warning. Not every shiny quarter is valuable. Many fakes and replicas have appeared online. Genuine rare coins will have natural luster, proper weight, and clear minting details. If you think you've found one, get it authenticated by a professional grading company like PCGS or NGC. A certified grade could multiply your coin's value instantly. What makes this story so powerful isn't just the rarity. It's the reminder that history, luck, and opportunity can collide in the most unexpected ways. Don didn't set out to become a millionaire. He just happened to notice something most people would have ignored. And that's what makes coin collecting magical. It's not just about what's old. It's about what's hidden. Think about it. Right now, millions of South Carolina quarters are sitting in coin jars, glove compartments, and dresser drawers across America, each one with the potential to hold a tiny, life-changing error. And one of them could be yours. So the next time you hold a 2000D South Carolina quarter, don't just see a piece of metal. See possibility. See the story of a man whose luck changed forever. See the secret that even the mint didn't mean to release. Because that's the beauty of treasure hunting. Sometimes, the greatest fortunes are the ones you never saw coming. Yes, a simple 2017 P Mint Mark Ozark quarter dollar. A coin most people spent without a second thought. But for one collector, it became a life-changing discovery worth up to $1.90 million. It started like any ordinary day. A man from Missouri was cleaning out an old jar of change he'd been keeping on his dresser for years. Quarters, dimes, pennies, nothing special. But as he picked up one particular quarter, something caught his eye. The shine, the edge, the details, they looked different. He almost threw it aside. Almost. But what he didn't realize at that moment was that this little 2017 P Ozark quarter was about to rewrite his financial future. Now, let's take a step back. The 2017 Ozark Riverways quarter was released as part of the America the Beautiful series, a tribute to national parks and historic sites. Most of them are worth 25 cents, maybe a few dollars in mint condition. But a few rare errors from the Philadelphia Mint? Those have collectors losing sleep. The Philadelphia Mint had one of those unforgettable years, a time when quality control slipped and miracles were accidentally created. Some of these Ozark quarters came out with double strikes, off-center minting, or even missing layers of metal that revealed strange golden tones underneath. To the average eye, they look like minting flaws. But to coin experts, they're pure treasure. One coin in particular was found with a dramatic die clash. The kind of error that happens when the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly images on the coin's surface. That single mistake turned a 25-cent piece into a six-figure collectible. But that wasn't the only one. When another version surfaced with a dramatic off-center strike and full visible mint marks, the bidding war that followed was unreal. Dealers were stunned. The coin world went silent for a moment, then exploded with excitement. Everyone wanted to know how something so small could carry such enormous value. And when that final hammer came down at auction, the crowd gasped. The Ozark quarter had sold for just under $2 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More collectors began combing through their change. Gas stations, laundromats, old jars, vending machines, anywhere coins might hide. Stories started surfacing across the country. A woman in Arkansas found one while paying for groceries. A retired man in Ohio discovered one in a coin roll he'd been saving for years. One by one, these discoveries reminded everyone of a simple truth. Sometimes, fortune hides in plain sight. The answer lies deep in the minting process. During production, a small number of Philadelphia struck quarters received what experts call planchet layering errors. In simple terms, the metal layers separated slightly before striking, creating odd ripples and distortions across the surface. The result was a coin that shimmered differently, and collectors could tell instantly that something was off. Dealers rushed to authenticate them. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC were flooded with submissions. People hoped their ordinary Ozark quarters might be one of the chosen few. And in some cases, they were .1 man's ordinary pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it didn't stop there. Each time a verified high-grade error Ozark quarter appeared, the prices kept climbing. First tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and finally, the record-breaking sale that pushed it close to the $1.9 million mark. Collectors were shocked. Experts called it one of the most unexpected modern discoveries in U.S. coin history. Even seasoned dealers admitted they had underestimated this design. After all, how often do you see a coin from just a few years ago selling for the price of a luxury home? But here's where it gets even more interesting. There's a detail, a tiny, nearly invisible mark, that separates the $1 million Ozark quarter from the ordinary ones. Look closely under good light, just above the river scene on the reverse side. You might notice strange doubling in the lettering or faint ghost lines running through the water. These are signs of the die clash error. And if yours has it, you could be sitting on something extraordinary. But that's not all. The rim of the coin can tell another story. Some of the most valuable 2017 P Ozark quarters have slightly misaligned rims, a hint that the strike was off-center. Others have uneven thickness, a sure sign of minting pressure variation. These details seem small, but they're the difference between a 25-cent coin and one worth nearly $2 million. And if you think finding one is impossible, think again. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of these coins, and some of the rare errors slipped quietly into circulation. They're still out there, hiding in cash registers, parking meters, and coffee shop tip jars. But what most people miss is the emotional side of this story. These coins aren't just metal. They're proof that luck, patience, and curiosity can still change a person's life. Imagine finding a coin in your change one morning, only to realize it could pay off your mortgage, your debts, maybe even your entire retirement. That's why collectors across the country are searching harder than ever. The Ozark quarter has become a legend, not just for its value, but for the mystery it carries. A modern treasure hunt born from a simple piece of American change. If you want to identify one yourself, start by checking for the P Mint mark. That's Philadelphia. Next, inspect the reverse side carefully for doubling or faint outlines that look like shadows. Examine the rim for any off-center striking or unusual width. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. And never clean the coin. That can destroy its value instantly. The truth is, the difference between an ordinary quarter and a life-changing one is often invisible to the untrained eye. But if you know what to look for, you might just find your own $1 million coin. Collectors are still talking about it. Dealers are still watching auctions closely. And ordinary people are still finding hope in every handful of change. Fortune doesn't always shine in gold. Sometimes, it hides in the silver gleam of a forgotten quarter. One that could be worth $1.90 million. The next time you hear that metallic clink of change in your pocket, listen carefully. That sound might not just be money. It could be destiny calling. But the man who picked it up had no idea he was holding a fortune in his hand. It wasn't gold, it wasn't silver, it was a simple 2000 P Mint mark New Hampshire $quarter coin. Just 25 cents in value. Until someone realized what was hiding beneath its surface. Now, Collectors everywhere are losing their minds. Dealers are scrambling. And one lucky man walked away with nearly $1 million for this very coin. But let's rewind for a moment, because this story doesn't begin in an auction house. It starts in the year 2000, right at the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, where billions of quarters were being struck for the new millennium. One of them, a New Hampshire state quarter, somehow slipped through the presses with a mistake so subtle, so rare, that it turned a common coin into a national legend. You see, the New Hampshire quarter features the famous Old Man of the Mountain, that granite profile carved by nature itself. Most of these coins look perfectly normal, but on a select few, the details tell a very different story. The mountain face is doubled, the letters appear slightly distorted, and under just the right light, you can see faint shadow lines where they don't belong. This wasn't damage. This was a double die error, a minting miracle that slipped past every inspection. One man in New England found one of these quarters in his pocket change and thought it looked a little odd. He tossed it in a drawer for months. Then one evening, while scrolling through an online coin forum, he saw a photo, his coin, right there on the screen. The caption read, 2000p New Hampshire double die, potentially worth over $1 million. His hands started shaking. He pulled out his coin and compared it. Every flaw matched. Every detail lined up perfectly. What happened next stunned the entire coin world that he took it to a dealer. The dealer stared through his magnifier, went silent, and called 2 more experts. They all agreed. It was genuine. That simple quarter, found in change, was worth a life-changing fortune. Now imagine that moment. You're standing in a small coin shop, holding something so ordinary, yet so powerful it could rewrite your future. That's the magic of coin collecting. That lightning strike moment when history, luck, and curiosity collide. But the story doesn't end there. As word spread, more people began searching. And they started finding similar coins, not identical, but close. Some had die cracks near the mountain. Others showed doubling on the letters, New Hampshire. A few even had off-center strikes where part of the design bled into the rim. Each one added fuel to the fire. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were suddenly paying thousands, even tens of thousands, for coins they'd ignored just months earlier. One auction in 2023 saw a pristine specimen, perfectly preserved, sell for nearly $1 million to a private collector who refused to let it out of his sight. It's not just the error, it's the story. The 2000p New Hampshire quarter marked a turning point in U.S. coinage. It symbolized a new era, the state quarter program, one of the most collected series in American history. More than 50 designs, one for each state, and billions of coins struck. Yet among all of them, this error coin from New Hampshire became the crown jewel. People began calling it the Granite Ghost because of how easily it could vanish into your change. Most people have seen hundreds of New Hampshire quarters without realizing the hidden fortune staring back at them. That's the danger and the thrill of it. But here's where it gets even crazier. Some experts believe that multiple dies at the Philadelphia Mint that year were slightly misaligned, creating not just one, but possibly several varieties of the error. That means there could be more undiscovered pieces still out there, hiding in jars, drawers, or even vending machines. Imagine being the next person to find one dot, and this isn't just speculation. In 2019, another collector from Ohio found a 2000p New Hampshire quarter with the same doubling pattern while sorting through his coin jar. He sent it to PCGS for grading. Weeks later, it came back labeled as an authentic major double die. This tiny detail, the misaligned strike on the mountain face, is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You could be looking at the coin right now and never noticed oh, how do you tell if you've got one of these treasures? Look closely at the obverse. That's the side with George Washington's face. Then flip it over to the reverse. Focus on the Old Man of the Mountain. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. If you see doubling on the mountain's outline, especially around the nose and chin area, or a faint shadow line along the edge of the profile, that's your first clue. Next, check the words Old Man of the Mountain and New Hampshire. Genuine double dies show a slight split or ghosting in the letters. Finally, make sure it has the P Mint mark under In God We Trust. That's what confirms it was struck in Philadelphia. The source of this legendary batch to be careful though. There are plenty of lookalikes caused by damage or wear. Real double dies are crisp, symmetrical, and visible even under mild magnification. If you think you've found one, never clean the coin. Never polish it. That could destroy the value instantly. Instead, place it in a plastic holder and take it to a professional grader like PCGS or NGC. Dealers are still searching for these coins every day. They're rare, mysterious, and growing in value every year. Just imagine, a coin you've spent 1,000 times without thinking could be your ticket to a millionaire's life. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about metal and minting errors, it's about possibility. The idea that your luck could change in an instant. That something as small as a quarter could rewrite your story forever. But when the truth came out, it was worth over $1 million. I'm talking about the 2016 P Mint Mark Fort Moultrie quarter, a coin that's leaving collectors speechless and dealers scrambling to find one before it's too late. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter. Just another coin from the America the Beautiful series, right? But this particular one, struck in Philadelphia in 2016, hides a secret that turned a simple piece of pocket change into a fortune. And the craziest part? It could be sitting in your drawer right now. The story begins like so many others, an ordinary person sorting through coins, maybe rolling them up for a trip to the bank. That's when one collector noticed something strange about his 2016 Fort Moultrie quarter. The details on the soldier's face looked off. The edges of the cannon seemed doubled, distorted, almost ghost-like. He thought it was just wear and tear. But what he discovered next changed everything. That he posted a picture online, and within hours, coin forums lit up. That's not damage, one expert said. That's a double die error, and it's one of the rarest I've seen. Collectors from across the country started comparing their own Fort Moultrie quarters, hoping they had the same hidden flaw. But only a handful matched. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A verified 2016 P Fort Moultrie quarter with that exact doubling, clear on the soldier's musket and along the word Liberty, went up for auction. No one expected much. It started at a few $100s. Then the bids began to climb, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, until the final hammer came down just shy of $1.1 million. Dealers couldn't believe it. A modern quarter, worth 25 cents at face value, selling for over $1 million? It shattered expectations. Collectors who once ignored modern coins were suddenly emptying their pockets, digging through jars, searching couch cushions, desperate to find one of their own. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Not every Fort Moultrie quarter with a P Mint mark is valuable. Most are worth face value. But the rare ones have distinct signs, small clues that only trained eyes can spot. The doubling on the musket, the ghostly lines near the cannon's wheel, or even a light, misplaced mint marks slightly off-center. These tiny imperfections are what separate an ordinary coin from $1 million miracle. One story that made headlines involved a retired veteran from South Carolina. Fittingly, near where the real Fort Moultrie stands. He found one of these quarters while buying a cup of coffee. It jingled in his change, nothing special. Weeks later, after watching a video about error coins, he decided to take a closer look. Under a simple magnifying glass, he saw it, the faint doubling around the soldier's uniform. He nearly dropped it in disbelief. That coin was later verified by a grading company and sold privately for a life-changing sum. Collectors were shocked. Dealers began warning each other. Don't underestimate the 2016 P quarter. It's one of those once-in-a-lifetime errors. People started calling it the soldier's shadow because of the eerie doubling that seems to create a second image right beside the soldier. Experts traced it back to a minting mishap, a slightly misaligned die that struck the coin twice during production. These mistakes are supposed to be caught and destroyed, but a few slipped through, unnoticed, into circulation. And those few are now the most sought-after modern quarters ever minted. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Because when you look at the Fort Moultrie quarter quickly, everything seems normal. But under the right light, you'll see it. The faint doubling on the design, almost like a shadow frozen in metal. Imagine holding that coin in your hand, knowing that this simple piece of change could pay off your home, your debts, your future. That's not fantasy. It's reality for a lucky few. And it's why collectors across the country are checking their 2016 P quarters right now. But here's the secret most people don't know. Many of these valuable coins are still out there. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 350 million Fort Moultrie quarters, and experts believe fewer than a dozen true double-die examples have been found. That means there could be others, hidden in jars, old wallets, or forgotten drawers, just waiting to be discovered. Dealers are paying top dollar for even minor errors from this series. A light die clash, a small misaligned strike, or a partially missing design could be worth hundreds, even thousands, depending on the condition. And if you find one of the ultra-rare double dies, you're sitting on something worth a fortune. One appraiser even called it the modern treasure hunt for the working man. Because unlike gold or silver, these coins are out there, circulating in plain sight, waiting for anyone sharp enough to recognize them. Think about that for a second. The same quarter you might toss into a vending machine could actually be worth more than your car. And that's not exaggeration. It's already happened. Collectors often say, the mint never sleeps. Every year, millions of coins are struck, and every so often, a mistake slips through that changes someone's life. The 2016 P. Fort Moultrie quarter is proof of that. It's the kind of find that reminds us why we keep looking, why we check every coin, even when it seems ordinary. Because sometimes, ordinary hides extraordinary. So how do you spot it? Start with the obverse, the George Washington side. Look closely at the word liberty, and in God we trust. Doubling can appear faint, like a blurry shadow under the letters. Flip the coin to the reverse, the image of Sergeant William Jasper holding the flag. Focus on his musket and uniform. Any doubling or ghost-like edges could mean you've got one of the million-dollar coins. Also check the mint mark. On the Fort Moultrie quarters, it should be a crisp P. But some rare errors show a slightly tilted or doubled P, a telltale sign of misalignment. Those are the ones dealers go crazy for. Condition matters too. If the coin looks sharp, with minimal wear, protect it immediately. Place it in a plastic holder or coin flip to prevent damage. Then, have it appraised by a reputable grading service. Because even the smallest detail can make or break the value, and you don't want to risk handling something worth $1 million like loose change. Collectors often say the joy isn't just in the money, but in the discovery. That moment when you realize something in your hand isn't just metal, it's history, mystery, and pure chance combined. The Fort Moultrie quarter carries that magic, but it's sold for over $1 million. And what's even crazier, it was a 2001 P Mint Mark New York quarter, the kind most people have sitting forgotten in a jar of change right now. When collectors first heard about this sale, the coin world froze. How could a quarter minted in 2001, a coin that's only a couple of decades old, be worth $1.2 million? The answer hides in a tiny detail that 99% of people never noticed. Let's rewind for a moment. The year 2001 marked the release of the New York State Quarter, part of the U.S. Mint's 50 State Quarters program, a project meant to celebrate all 50 states. Over 1.2 billion New York quarters were struck, making it one of the most common in circulation. But among those billions, a few rare mistakes slipped out of the Philadelphia Mint. Coins struck slightly off-center, double-die errors, and even wrong planchet strikes. One of those mistakes would turn an ordinary 25-cent piece into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. The story starts with a man named Robert from Albany, New York. He wasn't a collector. He was just cleaning out his car one morning when he noticed a quarter sitting under the seat, a 2001 New York quarter with something odd about it. Lady Liberty's torch seemed slightly blurred. At first, he thought it was just a smudge. But when he looked closer, he realized the letters in Liberty were doubled, a clear sign of a double die strike. Robert tossed it into his pocket and went about his day, but something about that coin stuck in his mind. That night, curiosity got the best of him. He went online, searched rare 2001 P New York quarter errors, and what he found changed his life. Collectors were reporting incredible finds, New York quarters with double strikes, misaligned minting, and even one struck on a golden Sacagawea dollar planchet. Some were selling for tens of thousands. It was different. It had multiple error layers, doubling on the Statue of Liberty's torch, a partial off-center strike, and a faint die clash on Washington's face. He took it to a local coin shop, and when the dealer put it under the loupe, his hands literally shook. "You need to send this to PCGS immediately," the dealer said, referring to the professional coin grading service, the gold standard in authentication. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When PCGS received the coin, they confirmed the impossible. Robert's quarter wasn't just an error coin. It was one of only a handful ever discovered with a triple strike, minting error on a state quarter. This meant the coin had been struck 3 times in the minting press, each slightly offset, creating a ghostly, layered appearance that experts had never seen on a 2001 issue before. The auction house listed it with an opening bid of $50,000. Within hours, the price doubled. Collectors around the country were frantically bidding, determined to own what was being called the New York Phantom Quarter. When the final gavel fell, the coin had sold for $1.20 million. A $1 million quarter, born from a factory flaw, rescued from a car floor mat. But this story didn't just shock collectors, it ignited a nationwide hunt. Suddenly, people were checking their pockets, digging through coin jars, searching through years of forgotten change. Coin dealers reported a surge in calls. "Do you buy 2001 New York quarters?" became the question of the year. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Experts believe there could be more of these out there. See, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity in 2001, cranking out quarters for the State Series. The heavy workload led to die fatigue, small cracks and misalignments in the minting machinery. When that happens, subtle doubling, planchet mix-ups, and strike shifts can occur. The result? Rare, high-value coins hidden among the ordinary ones. But the key is in the details. And here's where you need to pay attention that if you have a 2001 New York quarter, start by flipping it under a bright light or magnifier. Look closely at the Statue of Liberty's torch and her crown. Any doubling or shadow-like effect around the lines could indicate a double die strike. Next, check the rim. Is the edge perfectly centered, or does it look slightly off? Off-center strikes can skyrocket value instantly. Finally, check the color. A handful of these quarters were accidentally struck on golden dollar planchets. They look like they're made of gold, but are actually minting accidents worth tens of thousands, sometimes even more. Dealers are still on the lookout for coins with partial mint marks, ghost images, or die clashes, signs that the coin was struck abnormally. A verified PCGS-graded example with even one of these features could easily fetch hundreds of thousands today, and some experts believe the right combination could push past another $1 million mark. Collectors were shocked when PCGS officially recognized the New York Phantom Strike as one of the rarest modern errors ever recorded. It wasn't an old coin from the 1800s. It was a 2001 quarter, something anyone could have in their collection right now. That's what makes this so exciting. It proves that hidden treasures are still out there. Even in the most common change, one man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. And yours could too. But remember, this isn't just luck, it's awareness. The people who find these coins are the ones who look closer. The ones who slow down, turn a coin over twice, and notice when something just doesn't seem right. The next time you find a 2001 New York quarter, take a moment. Hold it up to the light. Examine every detail, the texture, the shine, the spacing of letters, even the edge. That small habit could be the difference between 25 cents and 1.2